You're listening to Brainbuster Radio.
Before we get into today's episode, I want to tell you about PowerSlam Pro Wrestling Network. PowerSlam has over 4,800 hours of content from over 120 pro wrestling promotions. It's the biggest and best pro wrestling channel around. And today, for only you guys that listen to Wrestling Reverb, if you head over to powerslam.tv and enter the code REVERB in all caps, you will get your first month on PowerSlam TV absolutely free. That's powerslam.tv and enter the code REVERB to get 1 month, your first month, absolutely free. Thanks, guys.
Hey, yo, Josh, let me get a little bit of reverb. Yeah. J. Will. Yeah, I'm about that lifestyle. I talk green work, repping it all over. It's right on the t-shirt. Fan for a lifetime. Yeah, that's a long pass. Figure I would show some love right on the podcast. Turn this up loud and make sure you don't do nothing else. Cause if you're listening to us, then you're improving your health. My name is J. Will. Welcome to the show, yeah. Wrestle, flow, 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 yeah.
What's happening, wrestling fans? This is Conrad Cushman from the Everything Pro Wrestling Podcast, and right now, you're listening to Wrestling Reverb Podcast on Brainbuster Radio.
Well, we're off the heels of a huge superstar shakeup. This is Wrestling Reverb right here on Brainbuster Radio, and it's nearly been one whole week, Kevin, since we've chat. We haven't had the amount of content that we like to, but I did explain last week, but let's catch up. Kevin, how are you doing?
I'm all right. You know, hanging in there. Pretty good. How are you?
I am good. Just busy. With Easter and everything. Just like that. But it is what it is. Can't change it. But I'd like to be doing this a little bit more often than I have been in the last couple of weeks. But hey, we'll get back on track in a couple of weeks' time. We got a lot to chat today. Like I said, the Superstar Shakeup we're recording just after SmackDown is ending this week. The Superstar Shakeup has just happened. We got some things to chat about what you've been doing over the weekend, Kevin, and I got a few little other things that I want to chat as well. But, I mean, like I said, it's been a week since we've chatted. It's been a week since you've heard our lovely voices. Kevin, I want to dive right into the fact that you did some pretty cool stuff this weekend, or the last few days, whenever it exactly was. Please inform all of our lovely listeners, and tell me the rundown of how this came to be, what this exactly is, and your experience with it, because I don't want to take away your announcement, I guess.
Sure. So, yesterday, actually, I had the privilege of doing play-by-play for an independent wrestling promotion that's based out of New York. So, a couple of months ago, a couple of buddies of mine from school, I went to school in New York, and a couple of buddies of mine reached out and said, hey, for their TV students, so they had to do like a senior TV show to graduate, and they wanted to do a wrestling show, and they had reached out to this indie New York wrestling connection, and they agreed to do the show at my former university. And so the guys reached out to me and they were like, hey, do you want to come in and call play-by-play for the show? And obviously, like, that's something I've never done before, but it's something that I'd like to do, and I thought that would be an absolute blast to do. So I said yes. And then, yeah, I went out on Sunday, did a rehearsal, and then Monday, yesterday, for us in the States, we did the show, and it was an absolute blast. Just a lot of real fun. I got to meet a lot of real fun dudes. Got to call this show. It was a blast. I had so much fun. There's a lot going on. I think I did pretty well too, honestly. Not to toot my own horn. I did share the link on Facebook. If anybody else wants to check that out, just go to my Facebook, Kevin Carroll, and you'll find the link to the live feed, which you can then watch. It's only about an hour, and I watched it back, and there's some pretty good stuff on there.
Well, that's good, because I know I've chatted with you before, Kevin, and some other people about the fact that when I was younger, commentary would have been so a fun avenue to do, and it's not something that just is, just, every neck of the woods that you can just be like, yeah, I'm going to go try this. So it's a cool opportunity for you to do it, and like you said, again, not to toot your own horn, but you think you did pretty well. I didn't even know about the link on Facebook. I'm going to check that out. How did you actually find the experience of it? Was it challenging, or was it a little bit like free flowed? How did it actually feel for you personally?
It went pretty. It came pretty easily, honestly. A lot of it is just calling moves, calling spots, and I've always had a gift for just talking.
Yeah,
and I really used that to my advantage. There's a lot of different unique sort of stuff that I've actually never seen before in wrestling. The first match was called a safe place match, and again, the idea of the match was that the ring was a safe place, and you couldn't fight each other in the ring. So instead, they were playing like rock paper scissors. They were playing beer pong, and then once you got outside of the ring, then that was no longer a safe place, and that's where the fighting took place, outside the ring. Inside the ring, if you threw punches in the ring, you got placed in timeout. So trying to call that was definitely a bit of a challenge, because I've never seen anything quite like that in my life. But after that, once we got into some more regular competition, it came a lot more easily, a lot more free-flowing. Some of the one match was really good. It'd be the second match on the card was a six-way between a bunch of different really talented individuals. Some of them were as young as 18 years old.
Damn.
And the kid who won actually was 18 years old. I'm 22, and he's out there winning matches for the New York Wrestling Connection. That's pretty impressive in my opinion.
Yeah, no, that sounds like such a fun thing just to even be able to get the opportunity to do. You said it come pretty natural. I know this is completely different, but when I was younger, even to the point now, as long as there's not too many people around, I'll play wrestling video games and I'll commentate it, like in a weird way. Like I'll be playing, but like calling what's going on. I don't know why. It's just always been a thing that I've done. I don't do it as much now, but it's just, like I said, something that would have always been cool to have the opportunity to do. The fact that you got to do it is pretty dang sweet. So did you spend a couple of days in New York?
I was there for 2 days,
okay.
Sunday and Monday. Got to see, and outside of the whole wrestling experience, I got to see a bunch of old friends from school, and I got to go back to the old neighborhood where I lived for 4 years, and I just really had a blast, both in the ring, out of the ring. They didn't let me actually play in the ring. I wanted to get in the ring and run the ropes and just like dick around.
Yeah.
For liability reasons, I was told not to do that, which I understand completely, but also at the same time, I just wanted someone to hit me over the head with a chair.
It's every like avid wrestling fan's dream to just do that once, just to see what it's like, so we can actually, to a certain extent, know what this kind of feels like. Like, I would love to take a back bump. I would love to just do it once. I understand it would probably be painful, but I would like to just do it so I can go, okay, this shit hurts, or whatever it may be, just whatever, even just to run the ropes, or like you said, just something. It'd just be cool to experience. It's not something you can just be like, I'm gonna go do that. Like, it's not just something that's easily accessible, I guess.
No, it's definitely not. It's something that you won't stumble across all too often in life, and it was cool. They did let me. I got to walk the entrance ramp, and I imitated Batista's entrance and get into the ring, shaking the ropes. all that. It was an absolute blast. Hopefully, I get to do it again sometime soon.
Yeah, that would be really cool. That if you could tap into that kind of avenue a little bit more, because it sounds like to me it's something that you genuinely enjoy doing and only want to get better and better and better at. So that's a good thing. And it just kind of exercises that part of your brain, I guess. It's not something that we just do all day, every day. So, again, cool that you had that opportunity to do it. Did they, mention to you how you did? Did they think you did well? Do they want to have you back? What's the kind of go after that? Not really much said?
Oh, I got fabulous feedback from the people in the production room. Everyone thought I did really well. Again, that's other people saying it, so I could say it. I'm not tooting my own horn. But I got really good feedback, and a lot of the wrestlers themselves, when they were able to hear, because it was a small crowd, so it wasn't like that loud in there, and a lot of the wrestlers liked hearing me put them over, and the one dude especially, I kind of went off about him, Mike Verna. He just had a couple really good strength spots. He had two guys up on his shoulders. He hit a double German suplex. That was really good. And I got to talk to him after the match, and he's like, "Yeah, dude, I really appreciated you putting me on like that."
Oh.
So that's gratifying in a way too.
Yeah, well, it is. That's cool stuff, though. I wanted to that's why I didn't ask too much. If you didn't notice, Kev, I didn't ask too much about it in the Twitter DMs, because I was like, oh, I want to hear this so I can just genuinely react to this when you tell me.
Yeah.
But sounds cool. It sounds like a cool experience, and again, it's not something you can do all the time, so take it whenever you can do it, I guess, is the point I'm trying to make. But other than that, Kev, I've seen on your Twitter over the weekend you've been watching some old wrestling. You put out on Twitter that you needed some suggestions of stuff you can watch on the network, some classic stuff that maybe you hadn't seen or very little of. What did the Twitter universe give to you, and what did you end up watching?
So I got a lot more responses than I anticipated. This was like a late night tweet. I forget what day it was. I'm pulling it up now as we speak. But I was just bored, and I wanted to kill some time and tire myself out before I went to sleep. So I decided to take to Twitter and say, hey guys, throw me a suggestion for a match. I ended up getting over 20 responses, ranging from yours, which was Bad Blood 2003, to Hog Wild 96, to the Great American Bash, ECW stuff. Really all sorts of different things you could find on the network. I ended up watching a couple different ones, and I actually live tweeted them. I watched ECW Heatwave 98.
Ooh.
I watched WCW Hog Wild 96. I watched the In Your House Canadian Stampede from 97, I believe it was. So that's watched 3 different WrestleMania 7 too. Just a little after WrestleMania palate cleanser. Watched another old Mania, Hulk Hogan, Sergeant Slaughter for the WWF title. That was a fun show.
Damn. Obviously the presentation of WWE, ECW, WCW, whatever you kind of watching now and then it's almost like it's 2 different productions. It's 2 different companies. What was the main thing you kind of noticed about watching In Your House and the old WrestleManias or whatever you were watching? What was the main thing that you noticed right off the bat watching these shows?
That wrestling is a lot different now, and honestly, it's probably the in-ring quality of wrestling right now is so much better than it was.
Yeah, definitely.
Nothing to take away from, because there was definitely some great wrestling back then, especially on the ECW show. There were a couple really good wrestling matches, but overall, I'd say we're spoiled now. And I know the average wrestling fan has changed what they look for in wrestling, so it's not like wrestling was bad in the 90s. It was just different. Wrestling was very good in the 90s. It was just different. And I noticed that immediately. It was just so much more story-driven in the ring. Not a lot of crazy, not a lot of maneuvering, not a lot of, high spots and crazy shit. But there was still some really good stuff. In particular, on that ECW Heatwave show, there was a really good match between Justin Credible and Jerry Lynn that I really liked. Jerry Lynn's one of the most underappreciated workers, I think, in the business.
Agreed.
He was so good. And the main event from Canadian Stampede, it's a 5-on-5 tag match between the Hart Foundation and the team of, let me see if I can get this, Stone Cold, Ken Shamrock, the Legion of Doom, and Goldust taking out the Harts. And just an absolute... Nothing like a tag match you'd see today, where everything's pretty formulaic until the end. This was just an all-out melee from the very start,
well,
and it was a lot.
People included. Man, did they take all different career paths? Like, my God.
Yeah.
What a fun experience, though, for you to go back and watch stuff. I'm assuming you haven't seen majority of the stuff on these shows, or any. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, that was all new to me. WrestleMania 7, I had seen some of the stuff. Yeah. I had seen the main event, and I had seen the tag title clash between the Hearts and the Nasty Boys. But ECW I had never watched. Oh. And WCW, this particular pay-per-view, which was at a biker festival in South Dakota, I had also never seen. And there was some good stuff on there, too. There was a great match between Rey Mysterio and Ultimo Dragon. Eddie Guerrero and Ric Flair.
Hell.
The Harlem Heat taking on the Steiners. The thing I noticed about WCW is that the undercard is great, and the main event is typically, especially in like the Hogan era, the NWO era, the main events are so like overbooked.
Oh, yeah. The
main event was... Yeah.
The undercard
main event was Hogan
kept...
versus the Giant.
Well, yeah,
But the atmosphere was cool because like everyone's revving their engines on their motorcycles, and the crowd was really rowdy and really into it. It was a cool little setup. There was a match between Medusa and Bull Nakano where the winner got to smash the other one's motorcycle with a sledgehammer. Oh. Pretty cool stuff.
See, the undercard of WCW is what kept it. Maybe not what got it to the finish line in terms of, taking down WWE in the Monday Night Wars for so long. The undercard may have not got it there. Maybe the main event draws like Hogan, NWO, etc., got them there, but the undercard is what kept them there for so long because the cruiserweight division and stuff like that was so stellar, and they were putting on matches more like what we see in the whole of wrestling now in terms of in-ring quality. You see a lot of stuff that you see, a lot more than don't do now. So that was kind of the general sense of where the business, or what the business would evolve into, because it is different, which is a good thing. I think, again, the in-ring quality for the most part is on a consistent level better now. But it was just the wild, wild west back then. You could do whatever you wanted. And maybe it was more entertaining in some aspects. Maybe it wasn't. That's subjective. But everything had its pros and cons. But you are right. The undercard of WCW is generally pretty damn great. And the main events are generally overbooked. They just have a lot of big names. They relied on their name value. It didn't really matter what they did in the ring. They could kind of just edge on the fact that this is Hulk Hogan, or this is Roddy Piper, or whoever it was in the main event. So that's what kind of kept WCW winning at that. What year was that? Did you watch? I completely forgot.
That was 96. And the fun fact about this episode, about this particular pay-per-view, is that it was the first one after the NWO reunited, or not reunited, united.
Oh,
it was the very first pay-per-view after they got together, and it was where Hogan won the title and spray painted the NWO colors on it.
Ah, okay, yeah, that's very a classic image, a classic kind of time. So this would have been pretty NWO heavy in the sense of they were kind of everywhere on the show in just marketing wise.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. Every storyline, like almost basically tied into the NWO in some way.
Okay.
Like Rey Mysterio and Ultimo Dragon, Rey Mysterio had gotten like lawn darted into the side of that trailer, if you remember that.
Oh, yes.
Eddie Guerrero and Ric Flair, they jumped Arn Anderson, so Ric Flair had beef. Everyone had beef with the NWO at that point. So yeah, they were very heavily marketed. Yeah,
well, that's cool that you got to watch some old stuff. I've been on a little bit of a wrestling detox since WrestleMania. The only wrestling that I've watched is Raw and SmackDown last week and this week. I have not watched WrestleMania again, which is something I never do. I always watch it a couple of times in the first week since it aired, but other than like a few little snippets, I really haven't watched WrestleMania again, and I think I watched so much wrestling, was doing so much wrestling, I just need, not a break from it, it's definitely still in the forefront of my mind. It's just, I've been doing some other things, and I've been watching some other stuff, and just kind of chilling out on wrestling a bit, but I'm getting to the edgy point now where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get, I think, past Easter time, when I get done with all this wild week of work, I'm going to get back involved in it, and I might watch WrestleMania again and stuff like that just to get myself back ready. But I haven't really watched any wrestling besides what's going on at the moment, which is 100,000% strange for me, because I watch wrestling all the time. I just watch it all the time. But I've been getting into some other shows. I've stopped watching Friends, everyone, if you want an update on that. I'm done with Friends.
Wow.
I know, it was a hard choice, but I just got to the end of season 10 and I didn't want to start it again, so I was like, alright, let's watch something else. And now I'm on something completely different. Well, two very different shows. I'm watching the Leah Remini Scientology Aftermath show, if anyone's ever, it's really interesting and stuff like that. And then, on the other scheme of things, once I'm, don't want to watch something so heavy, I'm watching BattleBots. And if anyone doesn't know, do you know what BattleBots is?
No, explain it.
Do you know those little robots that fight each other in those arenas?
Well, yeah.
That's what BattleBots is.
I kind of figure I know what it is, but...
I found it at work. It was on upstairs in the break room. And I was like, what the hell is this? Honestly, I know this has been on for a long time, but I've never heard about it. I don't know why. I just never heard about it. And someone at work was like, oh, it's little robots, and they spend a heap of money, this team, and they battle it out to go to this tournament. And I'm like, this sounds ridiculous. Let me watch this. And I was upstairs at my work yelling at the TV because I'm like, holy shit, this is fucking awesome. There was fire and like sledgehammers, and they were just destroying one another. So I come home and went on the internet, and I'm like, where the hell can I watch this? And I was like, oh, they have a website where you can just stream this from. Not illegally, legally. I'm not doing anything wrong. And I was like, oh, let's get into this. So here I am watching Leah Remini's stuff about how she left Scientology, and then next I'm watching BattleBots. So I'm in two very different landscapes of shows at the moment, but...
yeah, you were really on different sides of the world there with those.
Yeah, not mad. It's just, hey, I just watch this when I'm in bed, and then I go to sleep. Just before, I watch some BattleBots. Can't complain.
No.
But yeah, so that's what I'm doing at the moment, for anyone wondering if I'm still watching Friends. No, I'm just taking a break for some wrestling and watching some other stuff. But it's coming to a point where I need to get back into some wrestling again and get myself geared up again, as I said, kind of Easter and that stops. But nonetheless, it's not like I haven't watched Raw and SmackDown and since WrestleMania. I'm not stupid and I'm not going crazy here. I'm still Josh all the time, still loving wrestling. So before we get into the Superstar Shake-Up and a few little other things, let's take a minute to take a listen to one of our Brainbuster brothers and when you can catch them. Or sisters. Hey, Queen, sorry. Not just brothers, sisters as well. But anyway, you get my point.
Hey there, this is Wilford from Wilford Watches Podcast, and you're listening to Wrestling Reverb.
Okay, so the Superstar Shake-Up was wild. Is that a word you would probably use to describe the Superstar Shake-Up this year, Kevin?
Yeah, a lot more happened than I thought.
Yeah.
We got a lot of movement and shaking. A lot of new faces and new places, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, we always talk about how so-and-so needs a change of scenery. This is the ultimate change of scenery.
Yeah. So we started on Raw, and let's get this. Let's kind of the first thing we seen was Stephanie and Shane. Now, here's what I kind of not had an issue with, just was trying to wrap my brain around. Okay, so Raw and SmackDown are two separate shows. Now, it always happens in years previous in that we head into Mania and people are going to appear on different shows. So, for the last month or so, couple of months or so, we have been experiencing some non-brand exclusiveness, if that's even a word. We haven't really had people sticking to their brands, which is fine. It's leading into Mania. And so this was a nice little time to get people on their brands and not have intertwining except for the champions that have both titles. But here's my kind of take on the confusion of things, is that both Raw and SmackDown are run by Triple H, Stephanie, Shane, and Vince. So in my mind, there's no real competition between the two brands because you have the same boss, or the same general manager type authority figures. So I guess what I tried to was like, I love the brand split to bits, and it's better to be there than not. But almost, what's the point if you have the same boss? Why would you send them to a specific show? Why not just have them everywhere? I don't know if you agree with me on that, but to me, I wish they would split the McMahons up or have GMs, because there's no competition between the two brands, and in my mind, isn't that the point of the brand split?
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100% there, man. It's weird. I almost consider Shane SmackDown, Stephanie Raw.
Me too.
But it's not the case necessarily, because Shane pops up wherever, Stephanie pops up wherever, Vince pops up wherever, and it is kind of like weird to think that there's the same person's running both shows. So what's the point of having two different shows when you could just combine them all into one? That said, I hated when they went away from the brand split originally. And I thought, obviously, SmackDown became an afterthought. And I don't want that to happen again. It won't, just given how loaded SmackDown's become over the last two nights. But it's definitely weird, and I wish they would establish who runs which show again, so I could feel like there is some sort of, spirited competition.
Yeah, I almost think not in to go back to the authority days, but Triple H and Steph should run Raw and Shane and Vince should run SmackDown, or vice versa, whatever, or any combination really, because there's not really much to explain. They're all family, so they really could be paired up with whatever, or just have Vince run one, Stephanie run another, or Shane run another, or something. But nonetheless, we kicked off Raw, and listen, we knew that the first segment we had to get someone over from SmackDown or somewhere, because it was branded as the International Superstar Shakeup. But we knew we had to get something to kick us off. And listen, The Miz coming to Raw. I believe he swapped every draft or Superstar Shakeup, whatever you want to call it. He's gone back and forth between SmackDown and Raw. He attacked Shane. Cool little segment. What do you think about Miz coming to Raw? Because he wasn't really on the forefront of my brain to come to Raw. In my mind, he was staying on SmackDown. Or I didn't even really think about him, to be honest.
I didn't think about it because it felt like he had a feud still going on with Shane, so I didn't think about him moving. But I guess going back to our earlier point, Shane can go wherever he wants, so they could easily continue that feud on the other show. That said, I wish Miz stayed on SmackDown, just because I feel like Miz was a great fit on SmackDown.
Yeah, Miz is great. I have no problem with him coming to Raw, because at the end of the day, they can still continue that Shane and Miz program, because I think there's a little bit more in that. I don't think there's a hell of a lot left, but I think there's a little bit more, and a chance for Miz to get a nice, decisive win over Shane. Because, although he lost, quote-unquote, at WrestleMania, he didn't lose. Shane just happened to win. I don't think Miz lost that match, but I think there's a little bit more. Obviously, they plan to, and I think they can get one more match out of this for Miz to get a win. But nonetheless, Miz is on Raw. Hey, I'm excited for Miz. I don't know how much long-term depth there is as him as a babyface. I think he is just better suited to the heel role. But, I mean, it's not like he's not getting a solid face reaction when he's fighting Shane, because he damn well is, and good on him, because 3-4 years ago, when they did try to turn Miz face, it didn't really work, because he's easily hateable. He's easy not to like. But in this point, I'm all for Miz doing this and Miz being a face for as long as they can milk it.
Yeah, he's not generic like he was the last time they tried to turn him.
Yeah.
He has something to fight for, and people want to see him fight Shane.
Yeah. They want to see him kill him, and I'm down with that. Because, hey, say what you want about Shane McMahon, but he's a great heel. I forgot how good of a heel Shane is.
Yeah.
He's a prick. He's great.
He's born to be a heel.
All McMahons are. All McMahons are. And they all play their heel card very nicely. I thought in this segment alone, both Stephanie and Shane, more so Shane in this because he had a bit more of a chance to shine, but they're both incredible heels. That's why they're still on television. We love to hate them. And it's not really too many people that do heel better than Stephanie, Vince, and Shane. There just isn't. But Miz coming to Raw. Cool little acquisition. Kicks off the night. The next one that come over was an 8-man tag match. We had Alistair and Ricochet. They're officially a part of Raw now. They were teaming with Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins, who are the Raw Tag Team Champions, and they took on the Revival and I guess a team from NXT.
Yeah. What's their name?
Formerly known as the War Raiders. They are now the Viking Experience. Now, I didn't watch Raw live, so I didn't get to see the reaction. I'll keep it just one word here. The reaction for this team name. Now, I watch Raw, I come home, put it on, and I'm like, heard the music, I'm like, oh, hell yeah, the War Raiders. This is pretty cool. And then that came up on the Titantron, and I was like, what in the fuck? So my brother had watched Raw live. I Snapchatted him. I said, the fuck is this? And he said, wait till you hear what else they've changed. And I'm like, what? And they've changed their name from Hanson and Rowe to like Eric and some shit. I don't even think of the other one. Igor or some bullshit. What is it?
It's like Ivar or something. I don't know how to pronounce it.
What the fuck? Why? I understand maybe they don't want the word war in I think that was the thing going around, that they didn't want the word war in on a WWE program, but isn't, to me, correct me if I'm fucking wrong here, but isn't NXT WWE, shouldn't you maybe have, addressed that when they come in? The Viking Experience? Like, what?
You changed their name upon arrival, but you kept War.
Yeah.
You changed Machine. People didn't like that, but God, that was so much. War Raiders is so much better than the Viking. The Viking Experience sounds like a carnival ride.
It's terrible, and everybody shit all over it. When I come back on last night to Twitter, of course, you know when you've been off Twitter in a little while and you have notifications, and you have in case you missed it or something, and you have all the...
Yeah.
All of it was about that. There wasn't one tweet that wasn't about it, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? Because I had to watch all of Raw before I could get back on Twitter, because I didn't want to be spoiled about anything. And I was just literally reading all of this stuff, and I'm like, this is so bad. I'm not even kidding. Like, this is still bad, but they could have just called them the Vikings, and that wouldn't have sounded as cheesy as the Viking Experience. It's still bad. But, okay, they called them the Viking Experience. Let's get past that. Why did they change their names? I don't understand.
I don't know.
I don't understand that.
I'll never understand the fixation on that Vince has with names and changing them up. There's just something about it that he just enjoys tweaking names, and usually I feel like it's worse than the names get worse than they get better, which sucks. That's I'm going to call them Hanson and Rowe anyway.
Yeah, they are Hanson and Rowe.
I'm not sure which one would be Eric and which one would be whatever, but
I don't either.
The thing is, they're talented, I don't know if the name could sink them, but it's not a great start.
Oh, no. No. And listen, was War Raiders, I'm calling them War Raiders because it's what they fucking are, but they weren't even on my, they weren't even on my brain of people to come up, because last time I checked, they were the NXT Tag Team Champions, and they didn't even mention that on Raw. They didn't even mention it. So when they go back to NXT, they have the NXT tag titles. Are they now the Viking Experience? I don't know. I don't know anything. But nonetheless, they pinned the Raw Tag Team Champions. So I guess they're in line, or they're on the forefront of becoming number one contenders, I would assume. So nonetheless, they have plans for these two, and take everything else away, they're still incredible in-ring talent. So
yes,
let's hope we can just let this sink in for the next few weeks, get past the name, get past the everything like that. They still have their cool music, they still do the same stuff in the ring, so let's just fingers crossed for the best for them. And Raw's tag division, we'll talk about that a little bit more a bit later when we get to it, but pretty good, because it wasn't great, and it's pretty damn great now. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, they've revitalized it, and that's probably the thing Raw needed to address most.
Definitely, 100%. Now, something probably I'm more excited for than a lot is the fact the next member to come to Raw was Andrade and Zelina Vega. And now they call SmackDown the land of opportunity, or at least at one point they did. Andrade got lost in the shuffle. Every time he got a little bit of a push, he then fell down 3 steps. He just got forgotten about. I hope and pray that this is a fresh start for Andrade, because he needs it, and he can shine. He can go with the best of them. He's very good. And so is Zelina Vega. They are just a great unit. They work well together. They make each other better. Andrade has everything, and Zelina can talk. And Zelina is a great manager, and I don't think people really comment on that enough. She does anything to make sure that Andrade wins, hence in this match with Finn. Good start for him. What do you think about Andrade coming to Raw?
I'm conflicted, because on one hand, I think he was a bit lost in the shuffle on SmackDown, but I saw an easier path to the top for him there. Raw's got so many heels up top. You saw it when you had which we'll talk about, I guess, a little bit later. You had the team of McIntyre, Corbin, and Lashley.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be tough for him to permeate that bubble up top. But again, change of scenery never hurts, and I think he's still he obviously picked up a big win, and he's still too talented to really lose. He's too talented to get lost. So I think it'll be good for him. But I'm a little conflicted.
Yeah, so sorry to interrupt, but there's been more Superstar shakeups just announced.
Oh.
They just broke up the Riot Squad.
Oh, what?
Liv Morgan is on SmackDown, so is Mickie James, Chad Gable, Apollo Crews. Who else did they put on Raw? Nothing we didn't know. Yep, Mickey and Liv, Chad Gable, and Apollo Crews all just made the jump to SmackDown. So we'll talk about that in a minute, but just thought I'd get it out there just for you to think that in. What the hell?
That's crazy.
They have
the Riot Squad.
Only Liv.
And they didn't break away Ruby, they broke away Liv. That's odd.
Yeah. And they broke up Bobby Roode and Chad Gable.
Yeah, I'm not that surprised. I think Gable will shine on SmackDown. I like that one.
They left Sarah. Okay, I wasn't going to talk about the women's division straight away, but we're here. They have absolutely dried the Raw women's division.
They absolutely scalped them. SmackDown is off the charts right now with the women's division.
Yeah. So if you look at the women's divisions, now I apologize and please chime me in if I forget anyone. But on Raw, you have Sasha Banks, which is a question mark. Alicia Fox, Dana Brooke, Nia Jax, Tamina, Natty, Naomi, Alexa Bliss. Is that it?
Just Ruby and Sarah.
Oh, and Ruby and Sarah. My apologies. That is... Now, no discredit to any of those, but there isn't a lot of depth in that.
Not a lot of star power either.
Bliss and Banks are your big stars.
And like you said, Banks is a bit of a question mark at this point.
And then I guess you got Lacey as well. But SmackDown have Ember, Bayley, Asuka, Kairi Sane, The Iconics, Charlotte Flair, Carmella, Liv Morgan, Mickie James. What else? Who else have we got? Damn.
Mandy and Sonya.
Paige to a certain degree because of her alliance with Asuka and Kairi Sane. The list goes on. Becky and the Iconics, I guess, can flip between either, but technically, Becky and the Iconics are SmackDown superstars. Technically. But I guess with the exception, Becky needs to be on Raw. Like, she has to be on Raw. She needs to keep the Raw Women's title and eventually lose the SmackDown one. But man, oh man, that is two very different divisions. If they were to lose Sasha, if Sasha's, done, they're pretty screwed.
Yeah.
They don't
Yeah,
really
they'd be in some serious trouble. I don't think she's done. I think she'll be back.
Me either.
Yeah, Raw got kind of fleeced here.
Yeah. Okay, we'll talk about the women's division when we come to the segments again in a minute, but that kind of threw me through a loop, especially with the Riot Squad. But again, we'll talk about that in a minute. Next, we had Rey Mysterio on Raw, which I actually thought was going to happen. I don't know why. I just was like, maybe Rey's going to move to Raw. He had a cool little segment with Elias, and then he got beat up by Lars Sullivan.
Lars Sullivan.
I don't like that guy at all.
The big man.
He's just... I don't know. Yeah, we won't even get into that. We'll keep rolling on with the Superstar Shake-Up. Next, what has listed next is the Usos. I'm excited for the Usos.
Yeah, that was one I think everyone saw coming, and with good reason. They're going to be a huge hand in building up that tag division again.
And they had run their course on SmackDown, to be honest. They'd done everything that they could do. They've worked with all of the teams on SmackDown. It's going to be cool to see the Usos and the Revival go at it. The Usos and, again, the War Raiders go at it. The Usos and anybody, because I think the Usos are the best tag team around. I really do think that. So I'm glad for the Usos. And fresh start, which is very needed for them. Perfect timing, to be honest.
Yeah, honestly, you couldn't ask for much more out of the Usos on SmackDown. Like you said, they'd been there since the brand split back in 2016. They have beaten everybody there is to beat on SmackDown. So now we're gonna see them beat everyone there is to beat on Raw.
Yeah, pretty much. You can't really get much better than the Usos. Next, we had the only woman from SmackDown to jump to Raw, and that's Naomi. Now, I kind of assumed Naomi because of Jimmy, but I expected a little bit more of the SmackDown ladies to shift to Raw, because Naomi, and I guess Lacey, are the only people that really moved in the women's division to Raw. And again, the women's division on SmackDown is absolutely stacked, and the Raw one isn't. But what do you think about Naomi moving over? Is it a good chance for her to kind of reinvent what she's been kind of doing? I don't know.
She's gonna have to, because she could be one of the stars of that division with how thin it is. She's got a fun character. She's good in the ring. She's not at that same tier as Bliss or Banks, but she's gonna have to work hard to be right below it.
Yeah. I'm still kind of confused about some things, because like Heavy Machinery and Nikki Cross are still not on a brand.
Yeah, I noticed that, and that's not great because that's literally what this Superstar shakeup was for. I think was to sort out the guys who are the floaters, and Nikki Cross is someone that should absolutely not only be on a brand but should be a focal point of said brand.
Yeah.
And I feel like they just completely given up on her, and that absolutely blows my mind.
Yeah. I don't get it either. Nikki Cross, hey, put her on Raw. You need some ladies on Raw. The only thing I think about when I think about the Raw Women's Division now is the fact that there's a lot more opportunity for people to weave out of the cracks. Ruby Riott, Sarah Logan, Dana Brooke. There's an opportunity for Dana there. There is a lot more opportunity. However, you still need star power, and you cannot build a division around Alexa Bliss and Sasha Banks. You just can't do that. Hopefully Becky is on Raw, so you can kind of have a bit more to work with, and then you can build other stars like Lacey and Dana, whoever it may be. It is really weird they move so many people, and
yeah, I know. I didn't expect.
I know, because I honestly thought Charlotte Flair was coming back to Raw. I thought that was a pretty set one in my mind, and it didn't happen. Another thing that I got kind of confused with is the fact that Eric Young is now on Raw, but
Sanity, who really cares?
Sanity isn't. I know that's a shame to even say who really even cares, but who really even cares?
Yeah, I guess there's... And I don't know if you caught this. I think they're sending Alexander Wolf. He's either done with the company or he's going back to NXT because he tweeted something about saying goodbye.
Yeah, I seen that. I don't know. EC3 is now on Raw as well. Again.
Awesome.
Yep. Cedric Alexander is coming from 205 Live. That's cool, but I'm scared he's going to get lost in the shuffle.
He could be a pleasant surprise, or he could slip through the cracks.
Good talent.
Again, it's easy to say, but I'm not so sure about him. No. I mean, I love him. I'm sure about him myself. I think he's great. I'm not sure about what they think of him. Because he sort of fell through on 205 for a bit.
Yeah, that's easy to say. Then we got Lacey Evans. She's officially on Raw. At least she's got a brand. I guess she's the number one contender to the Raw Women's title, I guess.
Yeah, I think so.
And then, of course, in the main event, we had AJ Styles come over, and that is one that I was like, that needs to happen. He needs to come to Raw. I'm glad that he's on Raw.
Dude, we're going to get Styles Rollins at some point for the Universal belt, and it's going to be absolutely fantastic.
Yep. I can't really... Again, I think Raw definitely lost out in some ways. But so the full rundown is AJ Styles, The Miz, Ricochet, Aleister Black, The Viking Experience, Andrade, Zelina Vega, Rey Mysterio, The Usos, Naomi, EC3, Lacey Evans, Eric Young, and Cedric Alexander. So, definitely not bad, but it's just some things kind of blow my mind a little bit. Moving on to SmackDown, listen, I knew that SmackDown was probably going to get more loaded than Raw in the sense of, hey, we got Fox deal coming up. We want we want fairly big names on SmackDown without completely destroying Raw. But I knew that SmackDown was going to be beefed up. Was that your kind of expectation going into SmackDown?
Yeah, and it comes down to the Fox deal, like you mentioned. They needed to load up the show, and they certainly did.
Yeah. So the first person we got in the Superstar Shake-Up to SmackDown was the Intercontinental Champion, Finn Balor. Now, that's fantastic for Finn to come to SmackDown, because it's one that I wanted. However, now we have 2 mid-card titles on SmackDown.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do with Joe. I can't see them keeping him there. You can't have both mid-card titles on one show. It's imbalanced.
Yeah, but hey, we got Finn on SmackDown, and that's great. And we got him to work with Ali on the first night he's on SmackDown. Not bad at all.
No. Feed me that every day of the week.
Yeah.
We got just a little taste of it tonight. I want some more.
The next person we had officially come to SmackDown Live was Lars Sullivan. So Lars is officially on SmackDown. He beat up R-Truth and scared Carmella away. what I wanted to bring up with this... Okay, so I put out on Twitter that we're recording today, and you probably noticed, along with everybody else, is that I put out a little thing saying we're going to talk about the fact there's some better people that are babyfaces, better people that are heels. But what I wanted to bring up is that I don't know if people think about this a lot. They just think, oh, turn this person heel, turn this person babyface. I just randomly thought of this when I was watching this match. Carmella. She is a fantastic character as a heel. Correct? Would you agree with that?
I would agree.
Okay, so what I wanted to bring up is that although Carmella's character is a fantastic character as a heel, she wrestles better as a babyface. And there is a difference when people are probably like, what are you talking about? There is a difference in the way you work when you're a heel and when you're a babyface, character aside, just wrestling-wise. Carmella works in the ring better, being beat up, doing crossbodies, doing high spots, giving the comeback. Carmella works better that way. I noticed that her match with Charlotte Flair, when Charlotte Flair is able to control the match as a heel, because essentially, in my eyes, a heel is in control of the match. They dictate the pace, they own the match for the majority of the time, and then you give your babyface a chance to shine. In this match, this was the first time we'd seen Charlotte Flair and Carmella work when the roles were reversed, when Charlotte was a heel and Carmella was the babyface. Carmella's work in the ring is fantastic in her, I don't mean technical wisdom, but I mean, just as a babyface, she wrestles really well. But she is a better heel character. And what I wanted to ask you is that, do you think there is some kind of value in what I'm saying, and do you see it with other people?
Yeah, I think most people wrestle better as baby faces because you get more freedom to do stuff. Like when you're wrestling as a heel, you don't want to pop the crowd too much.
No.
So you see it with, I think you see it with Rollins was a big example. Is he does a lot more cool stuff when he's face than he did when he was a heel. He's probably the biggest example. AJ Styles too. AJ Styles busts out the 450. You see a lot cooler stuff when he's a good guy as opposed to a bad guy.
Yeah, definitely.
The thing with Carmella is that, and this goes to your point, you control the match when you're a heel. I believe that too. I agree with you on that. I think Carmella is a lot more believable coming from underneath than she is on top.
Yeah.
So I think that this suits her better. And she did look really, really good tonight. And that was a pretty good match. And Carmella deserves a bit more credit than what she gets for her work in the ring.
I agree. And Charlotte Flair, to her point, although she is I don't think she's a wonderful babyface, but she's a good babyface.
She's fine.
She is a fantastic heel. She is naturally a heel. She's a Flair. But she is better when you can tell that she's dictating kind of what is happening in the ring. There is a difference, and not everyone would notice that, but I just randomly thought about that, and I'm like, wow, although I enjoy Carmella's work as a character as a heel way more, in the ring, she is much better when she is not controlling a match. And it's not a knock on her work. I don't think she's some people don't rate Carmella in the ring. I don't think she's the best, but I certainly think she's good in the ring, and especially as a babyface. So, just a random point I just thought about and I thought I'd bring up. But I don't know if I sound completely stupid in saying that, but again, Carmella, better character as a heel, better worker as a face. So, I don't know what's more important, but I don't have a problem with her being a face if that's the kind of level of work I'm getting out of her as a fan.
Yeah.
But anyway, just a random point. Moving along. So next up, after Lars Sullivan, we had a big giant women's segment. Becky Two Belts, fresh off her win at WrestleMania. She was kind of coming out here to... Basically, we knew what this segment was going to be. Who's coming over from Raw? Or who's coming from where to interrupt Becky? And praise the God, it's like everybody, it seemed like everybody was saying this, but Ember Moon is on SmackDown. Thank God.
Right where she belongs.
She's going to get a chance to shine on SmackDown, probably. I hope so. And that music hit, and I was like, yes, we put that into the universe. Everyone has been putting that into the universe. Like, get Ember off of Raw onto SmackDown because we know she's got more to give. Now this is her opportunity to show us. If she doesn't do it now, then, okay, you've had your opportunity. But nonetheless, she's getting the opportunity to work with a pretty incredible division. Next, we had Bayley come out, another person from Raw. Again, another person I'm excited for. The question I present to you is that, was this Sasha Banks' spot?
No, I think Bayley was going to come over no matter what. I could have seen them coming together, but now I think that I just don't see, with everything that happened with Sasha, I think it's better off if they're apart now. I think this is Bayley's spot.
Okay. Were you kind of surprised that she was kind of getting booed?
It was a little weird, actually. Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, I know why, but I don't understand the thought process behind booing Bayley. That sucks. She doesn't deserve that.
No.
And she's gonna have to work hard now to get the fans back on her side, but I think she will.
Bayley is, again, not a character that is marketed to us more so. It's more marketed to kids, to little girls. But she always will have that. I haven't really commented on the Sasha Banks stuff too much because, again, we don't know all the details and there's so many different stories coming out. The only thing I'll say on the whole situation, again, not knowing anything, really, we don't know exactly what happened, is that workers should be able to work freely where they want to. And if she's not happy in WWE, maybe it's time for her to leave, whatever it may be. But at the same time, the only thing that I'll say is that regardless of what happened, you do need to maintain a certain level of professionalism. And that's still the place that she works for. If any of these stories are true, which again, I have no idea, there is a little thing in my mind that if some of this stuff did happen, is there a certain level of immaturity? I understand knowing your worth and knowing that you are good at what you do, but at the same time, you work for a company and they are your boss. But that's the only thing I'll say, because I don't know the situation. I don't know what her headspace is on it. And at the end of the day, I just wish the best for Banks.
Yeah, I don't believe the stories, for one. And I think she knows her worth. You're right. And there's definitely a line you have to toe with your, the way you act at your job. There's definitely a line. And I don't know if she may have crossed it, she may not have. I personally, I don't believe the stories. I think everything got blown out of proportion. But I think she's terrific, and I think she needs to go where what makes her happiest. If she's not happy here, then she should go somewhere else.
Yeah, and for the selfish part of me, I hope she stays. And again, I think they will come to an understanding, and I think she will stay. However, she's on Raw. She now, with the, again, lack of depth in that division, she has more of a chance to shine, especially now that she's apart from Bayley. There is no tag team, there's no, can they feud? No, they can't. They're on separate brands. Therefore, she has more opportunity to work with people like Ruby and Bliss and Lacey Evans and whoever it may be. And she has name value, she's a star, she'll be treated a little bit more. There's not too many people pushing her down. So if she gets into that mindset, she'll be right. But yeah, Bayley come over to SmackDown. Great opportunity for Bayley. Who was next? Then we had Paige come out. Was Paige or the Iconics?
Yeah, Paige came out to introduce her new tag team.
That's right. And then the Iconics got in there at some point, and I will note, I'm not going to brag, but here I go. The Iconics got quite the reaction from Montreal. I was quite excited for that reaction. People are starting to get behind the Iconics. I believe we had this chat. I also had this chat with someone else. They're going to get to a point where they're getting cheered. I can sense it because people are starting to realize that these girls are actually entertaining and they have some character and they have some comedy in there. They've been doing this the whole time, just not a lot of people have had the chance to see it. I've seen it. I know you like the Iconics, Kevin. I'm glad that they're getting an opportunity to do this. They come out, Mandy and Sonya come out, and then we had Paige introduce her new tag team. Now, there'd been a lot of speculation that it was going to be Io and Kairi, the Sky Pirates, and I was leaning more towards that too. And Paige announced the first member was Asuka, and I was like, okay. And then Kairi Sane. And not mad at all, but it's a little head-scratching. I guess they didn't want to take too much from the NXT Women's Division. Io now has the chance to maybe claim the NXT Women's Championship or whatever it may be. Kairi was definitely ready to come up. She'd been ready to come up for quite some time. I think she's going to be a big player. What do you think about that team?
It feels a little bit forced. I feel like they just put the Sky Pirates felt natural as a team because of their history together. Obviously, Kairi and Asuka have history too, but it doesn't feel quite the same as the Sky Pirates did. That said, I'm excited for Asuka because she has some direction now.
Yes, I agree with you. And I'm excited to see Paige back on my screen. It's going to be... And listen, Kairi and Asuka need a good mouthpiece for obvious reasons. They don't speak a lot of English coming to this country, coming to America. So it's good for that aspect. Paige is a great talker, and it looks like the Iconics have got their first challengers. So that's cool. Again,
it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. SmackDown's women's division is absolutely stacked, and Becky's got a lot of people coming for her.
Yeah.
With, Becky 2 belts. I don't see Becky holding both titles for long. She'll drop.
No, I think she'll drop the SmackDown one. I think sooner.
Yeah. It'll be a cool little run, but I would agree that you need to get the title off of it. One of the titles off of her soonish. Let it run for a month or so, but you need to probably get that championship off of her because you can only do this Becky 2 belts thing for so long before it will get really confusing and really just too much. There is such thing, no matter how big of a star you are. You don't want to see too much of one person because that's when people turn on you, and that's when people... Listen, we're all fickle, and we'll get sick of Becky if we're seeing too much of her. If we're seeing her on every show, it is too much. But hey, milk this little thing for as much as you can, and she can drop one of the titles whenever it may be. But yeah, SmackDown's women's division compared to Raw's is absolutely stacked. A lot of talent. So that's cool. Another thing that's really cool, Buddy Murphy's coming over to SmackDown Live as well. He's been great on 205, and this is a good opportunity. Again, like Cedric, I'm very scared that he's going to get lost in the shuffle.
I don't think that'll happen to Buddy. I think Buddy's more put together than Cedric. I think he's a better mic worker. I think he's a little bit better in the ring. I think he's got more of a character, like the best kept secret. I think he's got more of that going for him, and I think he's gonna fill a good spot and be a good. I mean, he's got main event potential. Don't get me wrong. I can see him. I can see him going after Balor's belt though pretty soon.
Yeah, no, I can see that as well. And I guess the only other two that were on the show was Vince McMahon had been announcing the biggest acquisition in SmackDown Live history. It was announced all show, it was hyped all show. My first thought was Brock. I thought Brock, and I was like, please, I don't really want this, but to hype it like that, I thought it was Brock. Now, Vince come out and announced that it was Elias, and I was like, okay, who the hell is coming out to destroy Elias? First and foremost, Elias on SmackDown is good, because it's a nice little change-up for Elias and new scenery.
Yeah, he had fallen completely off the map for me, so this is good for him.
Yeah, and have you noticed, everyone's kind of noticing, you'll notice as well, but in his promos, he's alluding to whoever's coming out. I just think it's a nice little touch.
Yeah.
It's cool. And And then, of course, Roman Reigns come out, and Roman Reigns is now on SmackDown. Now, Reigns was in my mind as well. Maybe he'll move over. Again, SmackDown coming to Fox in October. You knew that they knew they had to stack it. And Roman's a pretty big deal. And it freshens up Roman, because I think Roman needed that as well. And it's good to separate Seth and Roman. With Dean going, or gone, I guess he's going, because they're having that Shield thing on the network. But it is good that they're splitting up those two, because I think them two associated with one another had run its course for a little while. So they needed to set them up. And Seth's got some fresh challenges. Kofi's got some fresh challenges. Good for Roman. And it changes up. It really has shaken up the landscape of WWE. It really, not to, just stroke their ego, but they did what they told us they were going to do. They were going to shake things up. I really do think that. And they did enough to do so. It made it fresh and stuff like that. I'm excited for that. I would say SmackDown probably, if you had to pick a winner of the Superstar Shakeup, I would say SmackDown probably won overall. But if you had to pick
SmackDown won by getting Roman Reigns and by bolstering the women's division. The only area where Raw won, I'd say, is the tag team division.
And AJ. They got AJ.
And AJ.
AJ's a good acquisition. Again, of course, with the introduction, to stack the women's division even more on SmackDown, they got Mickie and Liv Morgan. Mickie is confusing, because Mickie was probably one that you could have kept on Raw just to have more of a name value on Raw, because you needed it. And Liv, I thought they would, if they were going to keep any of the two together, it would have been Liv and Sarah, and Ruby breaks away. But I guess Ruby and Sarah, are they still going to be associated? Is there still going to be a Riot Squad? Who knows? Maybe they're breaking them up as well. Surprising, to be honest with you. And because of the absolute, just how stacked the women's division is on SmackDown, Liv and Mickie will get lost in the shuffle.
That sucks for Liv, because I like Liv Morgan a lot, but she's got a hard path to any sort of relevancy on SmackDown.
Yeah, but I guess in the sense of it is that SmackDown is loaded on the face side, and you need heels. So I guess maybe that's the reasoning. I don't know. But again, Mickie was one I thought you would have kept on Raw, and Liv. But there you go. That's the Superstar Shakeup for you. I'm excited for it. It gives us some fresh matchups and just some fresh competition and fresh viewing, fresh TV. That's what we needed.
Yeah.
We head into Money in the Bank. Nothing's been announced for that. It's still like a month away. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm happy with the shakeup this year.
I think they did a job well done.
Yeah, I can't really say too much more. I'm happy with it. And I think, from the most part, what I see everywhere is people are pretty excited for it all.
Which is surprising, because usually people just like to bitch.
Yep, I agree. But that will kind of wrap us up this week on Wrestling Reverb. Again, we will get into a bit more of a couple episodes a week in the next few weeks once we settle down from everything and get the juices flowing again, because WrestleMania just was a lot and not a complaint, just everyone needs a little bit of break from anything ever. So I just need a little bit of a breather, but don't worry, never fear, we're still going to do what we do and still love this to bits. But next week, I can tell you that Reverb Rewind is coming back. I believe it. By the time you hear this, the polls will be closed, and there will be a winner of what we're watching next week, but we're going to get ourselves ready for Money in the Bank. There's 4 Money in the Bank options. Now, you probably are wondering, we are having our first guest on Reverb Rewind, the Queen of NA, Queen's Court host, Queen herself, is coming on again here on Wrestling Reverb. We love talking to Queen, and it feels like, even though it was only WrestleMania week, we did it, but it feels like ages since we've even talked about Reverb Rewind. So, and to watch a Money in the Bank is going to be pretty dang cool. You'll hear that next Friday on Brainbuster Radio from us. But yeah, how do you feel about everything going into the future now, Kevin? Because as we kind of wind this up, excited for everything that's changed.
Yeah, I think we've got some interesting paths that could be taken now, especially with a couple of superstars, AJ, Andrade on Raw, and then Roman Reigns on SmackDown. I'm interested to see where he goes right away, because I don't think he goes right into the title picture.
No.
So I'm excited to see what exactly happens on SmackDown and Raw. They've got me more excited for Raw than I have been in a long time, so that's a job well done.
Yeah, I agree. But that'll do us for this week. We will catch you next week on the Brainbuster Reverb Rewind debut. Never been done on Reverb Rewind. Brainbuster Reverb Rewind has never been done. So we will catch you next time. Peace out.
Hey everybody, Big Paul's on Up JPQ from No Particular Angle, and this is the Wrestling Reverb on Brainbuster Radio.